Senator Richard Gordon. You're muted.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. First of all, allow me to congratulate my good friend, Senator Drilon, for having exposed this tremendous anomaly. It is something that really staggers the imagination on how we keep looking for money and yung pala, nakatago lang yung pera and they're circumventing the law. In other words, it's parang syndicated stuff. And then para kumita yung PITC tapos ipapark niya na ng 2-3 buwan, 2-3 taon and walang mangyayari. Tama po ba yan, Mr. Minority Floor Leader? Sir.
Mr. President, that could be possible, but I have no evidence to prove that. But that is within the realm of possibilities. As we have pointed out, these money market placements earns interest. The interest becomes part of the general fund of the PITC. The disposition is beyond the control of Congress because it is managed and disbursed by the president of the corporation.
Thank you, Senator John. May I ask another question with respect to, do you think that do you have any information sufficient to form a belief that the PITC is not performing true to their charter of trying to make it easy for us to be able to stockpile our requirements, for an example, or for that matter, make local industries tie up with other countries so that we could actually do it here. That's just one aspect, Mr. President. Do you believe that they're able to do that part of their charter? Have they been doing it?
The fact, Mr. President, is that the GCG gave the PITC a failing mark in fulfilling its mandate. And that says a lot about the way this GOCC, this particular GOCC is performing its function. And therefore, you cannot help but be wary of the ability of the PITC to carry out the mandate of importing or and securing the supply of vaccines worth 20 billion pesos. Yun po ang nakakatakot, Mr. President, because they have not proven, according to the GCG, they have not proven their capability of discharging their functions in accordance with the mandate under the law.
In other words, Mr. President, PITC has not been able to create a network where we can source products that we need. For an example, we had to buy PPEs and sometimes at an overprice. Not even sometimes. I know it was cost at an overprice, or for that matter, masks. Something that could have been done here if they had sourced it well enough. In fact, Mr. President, I have a pending bill that would stockpile all this. Now, Mr. President, apart from that, I'm very, very seriously concerned when I look at the COA findings, for example, on the armed forces, Mr. President. I can see that, for example, the Philippine Army has about 3 billion that has been parked there since 2018. By the way, is this cumulative 3.68 billion plus 3 billion, or right now the balance is 3 billion? But assuming for the sake of argument that it's 3 billion, that certainly constitutes, I suppose, equipment that our Army needs terribly. Wouldn't you think so, sir?
Yes, in fact, one of the findings of the COA is the delay in the procurement of this essential equipment of the armed forces and the PNP. In fact, some have not been, a good number has not been procured as we talk. And the money continues to be parked in the coffers of the PITC.
And the Philippine Air Force has a balance of 306 billion. I cannot see it because somebody's covering it. 306.11 million.
Yes.
million, Mr. President.
Yes.
What would they be missing in terms of parts? Because I know that we only have one C-130 operating right now, and it's really harassed to, they would need parts all the time. And I think another one is being repaired, and another one is in Portugal or somewhere thereabouts. So I'd imagine that this would be some of the things that they could use, especially
Yes.
if we withdraw the money and decide, well, you better procure all the parts
Yes.
because predicted by all these disasters, and the C-130 will be moving out there.
I agree, sir. But these are the details which I had no opportunity to look into given our limited time, and that will be a valid question that will be raised during the committee hearings of the Committee on Government Corporations.
That's correct, sir. I'm just loading up for the question, and the question is, with all these things that are happening, the subterfuge, the circumvention of the law, to the point that it causes injury to the government, and that the intent of the law is not fulfilled. That is to spend the money, and then if it is not fulfilled, it is parked there, and nothing happens. So there is delay in public services. There is delay in saving lives. This is skirting close to the violation under the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Law, because it causes undue injury to any party, including the government, Mr. President.
It could lead to that, Mr. President. At this point, for lack of any information, I will not venture a conclusion, but certainly when the investigation is conducted, I do not do not discard the possibility that we can find evidence towards that prosecution.
In reality, it's not PITC alone that is the culprit here. All these departments are culprits, aren't they? It's almost like a conspiracy to park the money so that they can get away, so that the money will not be taken back by the National Treasury. Would that be correct, sir?
Yes, that is a conclusion that you can draw, that it is resorted to, especially when you look at when the request and the engagement of PITC is made, where it is done close to the end of the fiscal year, when the amounts are about to be reverted, then resort to contracting a PITC and making it appear that the sums are obligated will certainly prevent the reversion of the funds to the National Treasury. Unfortunately, we're caught in a situation today where 33.4 billion is there, and because it appears to have been obligated when the Secretary of Finance made the so-called cash sweep, wherein all the unobligated funds across the bureaucracy were reverted back to the National Treasury. Hindi po napansin na dito sa ibang ahensya ang the obligation was incurred in favor of another government agency, which is the PITC.
I believe that the cash disbursement within 1 year is actually violated. And I remember a couple of years ago, we were all debating with Secretary Diokno, now Governor Diokno, on the matter of this doctrine that they're introducing. And we were always worried, which leads me to the conclusion once again. And to be fair, it is not the first time this has happened, Mr. President, that the cash budgeting system beginning fiscal year 2019 and for other purposes has been violated. Now, let me just go on and say that when you have a situation like this, you can really make a case for the fact that the PITC although may not be the principal complicit, but it shows several conclusions. Number one, we have the wrong government officials occupying our offices. Would that be correct, Your Honor?
Well, yes, I do not discount it. I've heard rumors about the present head of the PITC, but I will not put it on record because these are just rumors which I could not confirm. So let us, but I do not discount and I do not disagree with the theory of the good gentleman from Zambales about the quality of the people manning these offices.
Actually, Your Honor, I was also referring not just to the PITC, but to the different departments because it shows that their absorptive capacity. Remember that these agencies ask us for a budget every year, and we try to accommodate them. And it's just such a shame that we find that instead of being able to spend the money, their dispersal capability is severely infirmed. And that in any country, particularly, for example, the United States, automatically it will result in a lower budget for them the following year if they did not disperse it. So really, that is the penalty for inefficiency. And that's why I'm saying that it's not just in pari delicto, but a lot of people with unclean hands, or if you will, incompetent hands, not being able to spend the money because, like I said, it causes injury, delays to public services, necessary medicine, or for that matter, Mr. President, I got flung into testing, Mr. President, because our ITM only had manual testing. And the Red Cross had to do it because at the time it was so slow and I was afraid we were going to be inundated by a severe pandemic and people will die. That's why we were forced to buy automated machines. And this could have been prevented if the money was used for such machines. And RITM just called me the other day when I was asking for more money for RITM. They need 196 million, they told me. And I am disposed to granting it to them, principally because I think that we need the RITM to act as our protector in terms of snake bites to pandemics, Mr. President. But it would appear that if the cabinet members chosen by the executive are not able to do it, that is very, very sinful. It is not only culpa, it is also dolo, Mr. President. They're not only at fault, but almost to the point of malice, Mr. President. I mean, they're guilty of something so gross as to amount to bad faith, Mr. President, because sometimes it takes a couple of years. This is a severe warning that now I think, thanks to the minority floor leader, they are now on notice that the Senate is not asleep, that they will have to spend the money that was given to them, and they would have to prepare long and hard so that all these monies can be utilized for the people's welfare. So, Mr. President, again, I thank you. I thank the minority floor leader for such a thing. In fact, I was wrong, Mr. President. RITM parked 489 million in PITC in 2018, Mr. President. So I correct myself. RITM was asking for money, but they had 489 million parked thereat, Mr. President. And if they had bought machines, then they could have been well ahead of everybody, including the Red Cross, in fighting this pandemic, Mr. President. So you see, Mr. President, you have shown us that we can reach further than our grasp. The gentleman from Iloilo was once again demonstrated that we can reach farther than our grasp, because at times we really have to look at all these things that are happening in our country, that if we were to use this money, I think we would have a better country and our people would be a lot happier, Mr. President. I wonder if the Department of Agriculture is part of the COA report, Mr. President, or, for example, right now, as I said the other day, and I was just talking with him, we sound like we have a very good Secretary of Agriculture who was just recently appointed, and I hope that he can help us see our way clear in making sure that the farmers can get back very quickly. Now, Mr. President, my question now is finally is it is really a buying department, isn't it? They can buy equipment or products that we need in this country, and like we all know, sometime in about a few years back, they were told to buy medicine, generic medicine from India, Mr. President. And I don't know if they were able to do that. Generic medicine is certainly something that our people can utilize. Would the gentleman know if they were able to do that? Exactly, were they able to follow their mandate on that as well?
I do not know, Mr. President, but I have information that originally PITC was formed precisely as the purchasing agent for the generic medicine from India. That was how it was originally conceptualized. How it actually happened in terms of actual implementation, I have had no knowledge, and it might be a good question that can be raised in the committee hearings, Mr. President. But in answer to your other question, if I recall correctly, the Department of Agriculture was also among those agencies which utilized the PITC. In fact, PITC, if I recall, was the agency used for the importation of rice, again subject to verification, but that's how I recall it is. But all of this we can find out in the committee hearing. In fact, you are correctly stated, Senator Gordon, that the PITC, in my view, has become a convenient mechanism to cover up for the inefficiencies of government, because it is made to appear that the absorptive capacity is higher than what it really is, because of this apparent ability to obligate when in fact it does not exist.
Mr. President, I want to make a manifestation with regards to the Department of Agriculture, if I may.
With the permission of the Minority Leader and Senator Gordon, yes, Senator Villar.
Yeah, I just want to inform the Minority Floor Leader that based on our study, those who did work from the Department of Agriculture with PITC is the Philippine Coconut Authority and the Sugar Regulatory Board Administration. And on my part, on the DNR, they did one also with PITC. So those are the findings in our committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Cynthia Villar, for that information.
Thank you very much, Senator Villar. If I may proceed now, Mr. President, I have a couple more questions. First, talo na tayo sa interest sa tingin ko. Pero doesn't it also mean that when we borrow money and people who are lending us money or entities that are lending us money see that we're not able to spend the money in the budget, that they would be more reticent in providing us the needed funds that we have? Just as most of us are reacting to this. You ask us for money and then you spend it. So too would the agencies that would be lending us money. This should be something that they would be raising their eyebrows and asking questions about. How dare you borrow money when you have money and you're not spending it? Would that be a correct assumption, Mr. President?
Very correct, Mr. President. In fact, that's the rule in among multilateral agencies where loans are extended to the country. If you are not able to utilize the funds, you incur a penalty.
That's correct, Your Honor.
That's part of the loan agreement. You pay a penalty if you do not utilize the funds as scheduled. Unfortunately, in the case of PITC, with their non-use of the funds, earned them income through money market placements income. The money is not used, they earn interest, and these interest can be used for their general operations.
Would there be the possibility that there is very limited guidance being given to whoever is running PITC on how they can operate? For example, during the time of President Ramos, I remember there was counter trade
Yes.
undertaken.
Which president?
During the time of the president. So, kulang talaga yung abiso to a certain extent. And that's why, Mr. President, I'm not judging right away. I'm just asking preliminary questions that I think almost to the point that I would like them to prepare to answer all these questions that we are going to ask, because this will be very, very uncomfortable when we start asking the questions. And I believe that nobody's guilty and they're innocent until proven otherwise, Mr. President. Besides, this is really more in aid of legislation. But certainly, these are just some points that I think we have not been able to encourage government counter trade. We have not been able to get other countries to invest on joint venture, for example, for making simple things like PPEs. And right now there are other things that I have in mind, but I'm not going to reveal it until later. That even in the bidding in DBM, there seems to be some problems that they're favoring certain bidders, and I'm not ready to say that right now. It may be unfair for them, but again, the PITC is the lead coordinating agencies to make quality medicines available, affordable, and accessible. I do not know if there have been medical companies or pharmaceutical companies that have come here because of PITC, and that's a question that I would ask them later on, Mr. President, because we really need to do our own medicine and, in fact, go ahead with other things. Another thing, Mr. President, another thing that is parked there, I believe, is the building of the Department of Health, Mr. President. They're in San Lazaro. They're in San Lazaro. Would you bring it down, please? Yes. During the time of Secretary Ona, the scheme of hiding the unutilized portion of DOH budget continued, but now also included big-ticket medical equipment like CT scans, LINAC, brachytherapy machines, and MRIs. It was also at this time when increases in vaccine budget was experienced, and DOH has problems in meeting these big budget allocations, that when Secretary Dare came in, she used PITC to procure vaccines and even infrastructure projects. Whatever the DOH cannot bid and procure on its own, sometimes owing to bid failures and protests, and that's why I always raise my eyebrows, Mr. President, when there are bid failures and protests from bidders, whatever remaining balances will be transferred to PITC and PITC Pharma to be able to still utilize the funds. And what I understand is that the funds, once transferred to the PITC, does not expire. Walang expiration. So they just roll it, and our people suffer for it. DBM does not require them to return. That's why I'm putting everybody on notice. I'm sure the Senate is doing the same thing, that those people who park this money, they're not going to go scot-free here. DBM particularly should not allow, must require them to return unspent balances at the end of the year to National Treasury, Mr. President. So these are just some observations that we've made so far, Mr. President.
Just a comment, Mr. President. Just some responses. You raised the issue of the supervision of these GOCCs. Mr. President, that's exactly the purpose and our policy when we crafted and wrote the GOCC Governance Act, to have an agency which will overlook the operations of these GOCCs. I do not know whether the GCG has performed its task in the particular case of the PITC operation, but that's one good area of inquiry. And then, Mr. President, I looked at the structure. The PITC has a full board. There are ex officio members of the board, all members. And we would like to see, and through the inquiry, we would like to ask for the board meeting minutes. Were there board meetings done so that the operations can at least be overlooked? And then the DBM you mentioned, the DBM, Mr. President, has its own procurement service which performs functions similar or exactly the same as the PITC. So it's a good question again. What's happening there? You know, are we also confronted with the same park funds and the same practice of obligating the funds before the expiry, so that they become, so that their capacity to disburse is not adversely affected? These are questions which we should ask in the committee hearings, Mr. President.
Definitely, Mr. President, and I suppose we'll have to cast a wider net. And you will recall the other day when I was asking about Subic's airport, which has not been utilized, and they were saying there's need for a fire truck, and how long does it take to buy a fire truck? And that's DBM, Mr. President. So I suppose lalapad yung ating net. And at the same time, just another point, so that we do our homework as well. You know that our fellow senators should realize that in the 2019 list of items for bidding, the repair of DOH building number 1, that's the office of the Secretary of Health. This project was started during the time of Secretary Ona, sometime 2012. And it is still in their list of items for procurement in 2019. Can you imagine that, Your Honor? 7 years. And it's still up to this time posted in their website. Di ba nanonood yung GCG dyan? Di ba nanonood yung DBM dyan? Di ba nanonood yung Office of the President dyan? Di ba nanonood yung Secretary of Health na nasa website nila, hindi gumagalaw? To me, these are things that are really unfair for our country. And I'm sure you agree with that, but I guess I just want to tell everybody that my mind is not made up, and I would like to see answers to these questions that we are raising. Again, I congratulate my distinguished colleague and friend, Senator Dillon, for opening the eyes of the Senate once again on this very important issue. You know, no wonder we've been left behind by other countries. And this is just one facet. Just one facet, Mr. President. If we cannot move our money, then how can we expect to chase after countries and be able to compete with them if we're just parking our money and not utilizing it, Mr. President? Thank you again, Mr. President. Thank you, my dear Senator Dillon. Mabuhay po kayo. Maraming salamat po.
Majority Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Mr.